Hello, everyone. Before we dive into the replay of this LinkedIn workshop, I wanted to update all of you about what I did on my personal LinkedIn and also just review the profile again, do a little bit of an audit and a little bit of an update because, of course, like every workshop, we ran out of time at the end. I have been continuing to give myself a makeover, and the best thing about this is you can update it all the time. So I will probably continue to update my LinkedIn on a regular basis. So just to kick it off, this obviously is my LinkedIn profile. The first thing that I did after our workshop is I actually updated my banner photo here. One thing that I wanted to point out to everyone that I had noticed is that depending on which image you use and how high of a resolution or like the pixels of what image you have created, the text can be a little bit blurry. So this is something that you want to check out both on a desktop and on your phone, because when I was looking at this image I had before on my phone, it was a bit hard to read these smaller pieces of text. So I went in and I made the text bigger. I made it a little bit shorter, and I just like adjusted the background image color a little bit to make it easier to read. So this is something, and for every image that you have on your profile, just make sure you're looking at it in multiple different ways to see how it is going to look. So I did edit my banner a little bit and let people know why they should connect with me if they're going to connect with me. So from there, I also have updated my bio here. So I have spent a lot of time playing around with this. And this is something that is a little bit different for me than it is for most people because I have a lot of different types of jobs. Even here, I've listed out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different titles that are things that I have. That's not even all the things that I do. So I do have a really hard time fitting things in, which may not be as big of an issue for you. But as you can see, even with these people I have on my side of similar profiles, what can actually fit? So a lot of what we're talking about on LinkedIn is how you show up and what can fit in the displays that are available to you. So, for example, in when you're viewing people's profile in this way, if you're viewing them in the news feed, or if you're viewing them when they left a comment on something, parts of your bio, and it cuts right about here, I believe, parts of your bio are going to get cut off. I would definitely recommend making the most clear and the most valuable parts of your title to be these very first 4 to 5 words. After that, you have the ability to be a bit more creative, add things that aren't as necessary to be seen. So me saying something like SMS hype girl, that's something that no one's going to search for in LinkedIn and find my profile that way, but it is more of a way to have people who are viewing my profile get a sense of my personality, or what my interests are. You can add those things to the end and be a bit more creative in the way that you are phrasing it. I wouldn't just recommend putting tons of keywords without the context, which is something that we talked a bit about in the workshop. And just make sure that you are constantly checking in on all of those places that you show up to see how people are viewing you. So, Patrick, right here, for example, his main job title, CEO at UX Content Collective. But then from here, if I don't click to his profile, I actually don't know what he is helping UX content folks with. So it could be something that might not matter that much to him, or it's something that he could be having CEO at UX Content Collective and podcast host, which I know he also is, in the front part of his bio. And then after that, add on helping UX content, people learn about new skills or something like that, whatever he happens to have on his profile. So that is something to always be keeping in mind. And then additionally, just like play around with it. I'm not entirely happy with mine still, but I will be probably continuing to work on it for the rest of my life. So from here, I do have, since I have a premium account, I'm able to have an extra link here. And this link does follow you on the mobile app. So, for example, underneath my profile photo, when I comment on a post or when I am publishing a post, it will say join my community right under my name. So that's something that is important to me and matters a lot to me. If you are like a freelancer or you're looking for work, you could create a link to your website and say, hire me or contact me or anything like that. You can completely customize the text and the link. So that is something to keep in mind. And we did chat about, what are the benefits of having a premium account, even if it is while you're searching for jobs and then you get rid of it, or it's just something that you want to use as, a business expense or something like that. There also is a way to gift people a free month of premium. So if that's something you're looking for, feel free to send me a message and I will give you that free month. So from here, the about section, this is something that people can see even if they are not connected to you. So I went through my about section and I made sure that I was adding numbers and that I was kind of making sure that these names that I'm associated with are featured here in my about section, and that I've really gone through my skills and kind of honed in on reordered the skills that are most important to the type of work that I personally am looking for, which are things, in content creation and community, obviously conversation design, but also branding and social media and my other areas of expertise. Skills are something that you can add on your own. So you don't need a person to vet you for a skill. So say you are a newer conversation designer and you don't have a job title that has conversation design, you can still go in and actually add that skill to your profile yourself. It's closer here to the bottom. So skills, you can add your own skill right here. So you could add things that are important to you or through previous jobs that are something that will appeal to, recruiters of conversation design. So just going through existing jobs that are posted on LinkedIn and just taking note of which skills are referenced in those and seeing where, of course, it's relevant and applicable to your career is something that I would recommend doing for sure. So then our featured section, which we also spoke about during the workshop, one thing I wanted to call out here is that I did go ahead and add and update my about section on that little like web page I had shown all of you that I was creating. But I noticed that the thumbnail that I used you can't read it. So this is something that you can change the thumbnail. And this is why it's important, again, to make sure that you are looking at your profile on your phone and on your desktop so that you can see if that doesn't look good. So now I have a different image that's my design and content work, and that is what is on this website. So if you're going to add your portfolio, just make sure that you are using some sort of image that is viewable. And then I had a bunch of featured posts before. However, you can only see 3 from your actual profile. But yeah, it's pretty much, I think, 3 to 4. And then it puts them all into a list after that. So I would recommend not, unless you have a lot of them, don't have more than 4, and know that if you have more than 4, people may only look at the first 3 to 4. So make sure that you're putting, again, those most valuable ones in the front, being the link to your portfolio. If you decide that you want to create a post that says, hey, I'm doing this and I am looking for work, if you're open to work, or if you're not comfortable with that, you can do what I did, which is just add the link and not add a post. Experience, I had gone in after we chatted and filled in my experience a bit more. So I made sure I had actually found an article that had referenced my course, and I pulled a course review from that article and I included it here, which I thought was a nice little addition. I made sure to add kind of numbers of things that I have done. And so I've gone through each of my experiences and made sure to add a link, made sure to add whether it's like images or things, and then of course add your skills. This was one I had not filled out. So One thing that I did not talk about is if you want to actually describe what the company is that you work at. So, especially if you're working at like a startup or a company that people may not know what the company does, it could be good to just have like a little line telling people more about that so that you can explain context to them. So I also have added, our website that I was responsible for like creating the brand for, and then a press release I wrote, and also a larger piece of content that I wrote. I probably would go in and kind of add either like a case study or like a link to a demo of conversation design work that I have created, but I have not gotten that far just yet. Licenses and certifications is something we didn't have a chance to cover. This is kind of like where we stopped in the workshop. So, licenses and certifications, you can take certification courses on LinkedIn that you can very easily get kind of some experience. Or if you've done things like take an online course about conversation design, like if you've taken my course, we will give you a credential for your LinkedIn, and then you can, of course, add that to your LinkedIn. But if you're looking for more that are skills based, definitely check out LinkedIn Learning as a way to get those. And then I believe other outside vendors, you could take a certification about like IBM Watson, for example, and then like outside of LinkedIn, and then you could add that to your LinkedIn profile. And then we did talk a bit about recommendations in the workshop. I just very quickly went over it, but that was something that I had recommended asking people for, just so that you could get a few, because I do notice that like not a lot of people have them. So it's definitely an asset. Of course, people that know you and people who can vouch for you. I think that that's important. And then the last thing that I want to cover that we did talk about in the workshop is your network. So let's see how many connections I have here. I have 2,944 connections. And I would say that when I started taking LinkedIn more seriously, I definitely probably had closer to 5,000 connections. So that can just show you how many I've removed, which was kind of the strategy that I gave during the workshop. When I decided that I wanted to just focus on conversation design, focus on community and content within conversation design and personal branding, I removed a lot of connections that I had back from my earliest jobs in 2008, working in fashion and working in publishing. So I went through, and this took a lot of time, but I removed a lot of my connections over time. I would kind of just go through like a couple times a week, and I would say I'm going to remove 50 people. And that just like went on and on until I got to a number that I was happy with. And then from there, I now go through and I will add people who are conversation designers regularly, because I want to know more people. And so people that I don't know, I just can send a connection request saying like, hey, I'm interested in filling my timeline with fellow conversation designers, or I have read a blog post or a book that you wrote and I am interested in keeping up with your content. It doesn't have to be something that is, super descriptive and long, but I do think it's important to let people that you have no idea who they are, that you're sending a connection request to out of the blue, why you made your way to their profile. So I do find that people are very, very willing to accept, but the additional layer of having a message, it opens up the world of communication between you and this person. So anytime a person connects with me and they have a little intro message, that then goes into my inbox, and a lot of time I'm replying right off the bat, and we're already kicking off a conversation and getting to know each other more. So that is something that I absolutely recommend. And I recommend even like going to people that you're connected with. Maybe you want to go to my profile, look at who I'm connected with, search conversation designer, and then connect with all the people who are conversation designers that I'm connected with. That's like a great way to find people. It's also a great way to find people to look at the comments and look at who's engaging with posts of people who are posting about topics that you are passionate about. Or in LinkedIn groups, that's another place that you can occasionally find other people, although it's not super active. You probably will have a better chance finding people from events and finding people from who is leaving comments on others' profiles. I think just putting yourself out there in small ways is a great way to start networking. And it's going to be a great way that you can attract more people to your profile, attract more recruiters, and then obviously attract more jobs and hopefully land your dream job in conversation design. So I hope that this update was helpful to you, and there is a lot more, and we will dive a lot deeper in the workshop replay, which will be happening right after this. Welcome, everyone. I just dropped the link to this doc here in the chat if you want to just say hi in there. We are going to be reviewing my personal LinkedIn, and I'm assuming that everyone here knows me. I guess maybe that is not the case, but if you know me only casually, maybe my name is Hillary Black, and I am a conversation designer and also a content creator, which is why I like to do little workshops like this. And I personally use LinkedIn a lot to both connect with other conversation designers and just network with them. I also refer a lot of people for jobs that I see on LinkedIn or people that I am connected with that I don't even necessarily know personally. So I definitely think that you should all connect with me on LinkedIn if you're not already. But for the purpose of this workshop, I'm going to be just doing an edit of my own personal profile. Full disclosure, like I am not looking for a job, but I will of course talk about it in that way. And I see that Patrick has asked too, does anyone know if open to work for new opportunities and currently at a company? So are you speaking about the open to work like banner on your profile? That I do know this, and maybe we can look into this a little bit because I think there might be a way to have it not show to your current employer. I feel like that might be a feature of that, but we can look into it, obviously. Because that wouldn't be good.
Well, I feel like the current employer is so big that someone will know, right? So I feel like you only
Yeah,
use
that's
it when
true.
you don't have a job. I don't know. And if you're looking for
Yeah.
one, you're trying to show what you're building, kind of building in public and try to get someone interested.
Yeah. Okay. I
think
see
it's
that Carmen has said that you can have it be visible only to recruiters, but not publicly on your profile. I don't know how this would reflect to recruiters that work at your company, but not every company has recruiters who work there. So that's just something to keep in mind. So this list here is kind of just my to-do list of what I want to change on my LinkedIn. Just based on my own personal audit. And so I would highly encourage everyone to look at your own profile and just say, even go to like your public view of your profile and say, what would I change about this? And that can be a place where you can kind of like see that. So this is my LinkedIn profile, if you are connected to me or not. And so the sections that I want to first kind of highlight are what is most visible on your LinkedIn. So the things that are the absolute most visible obviously are your profile picture, your like banner image, this thing that I like to call it like a micro bio, because it is just obviously a very short bio about yourself that does follow you everywhere that you go on LinkedIn. So these, especially your name, your profile picture, and your bio or your tagline, this will show up if someone searches for that job title, if you comment on any person's post, if you are, looking at like an article or anywhere that it's kind of like tagging you in this news feed for other people, on Google. Actually, if you Google like conversation designer LinkedIn, this will show up as like the SEO tag. So what you have in this section is extremely important. And I see like one common thing that I see here is that people really try to jam in every single keyword for what they want to do in this tag. And it's not necessarily like, of course, if you are searching for a job in conversation design, in Gen AI, in prompt engineering, like you may want to include those things. But instead of kind of making it this like word salad, I would recommend grouping it together. So saying, what your current title is or your desired title first. So the problem that I personally have is that I do a lot of different things. So it's very difficult for me to describe all of those in just this one little place. So, I say, my first thing is that I'm a conversation designer. If you work at a large company, you might want to say conversation designer at Meta, or something like that. Like that's what Elaine has here. And then you can add things in, like interested in Gen AI, prompt engineering, like kind of making it something that makes sense, versus just having 20 keywords all listed out that it doesn't really make sense to the person who's coming across your profile, not knowing you, never interacted with you, and they saw maybe you left a very thoughtful comment on someone else's post and they're like, oh, what's this person about? They really have no idea who you are and what you do based on your word salad bio. So that's just something to really consider. And I would say that for almost everyone here, this is where you want to like spend a lot of your time, is thinking about this. And so you could even do things like, here, let me just go search for the job title that you want and see like who comes up and what they say. So a lot of it could be, I'll go to people here, and there's 2 million people who are saying that they are conversation designers on LinkedIn. So seeing the different types of things that these people are saying, for the most part, who is showing up highest are people who work at larger companies, likely have larger networks of people. So it's not necessarily that you're like, I must be on the first page of LinkedIn, but just seeing what people are searching for, what types of jobs you are looking for, and what those titles are in the jobs that you are wanting to apply for that you see on LinkedIn. So as you can see, these things, including where they currently work, are what is following all of these people. And if you go to any post, you can see like Martin here, his headline is cut off. So you have to go to his profile in order to see what he actually does and where he actually works. So I would recommend, and something that I do regularly, is look at your own LinkedIn activity on desktop and on your phone and see what shows up for you. So see like where the cutoff is and how you can like front load the most valuable thing in your profile and have that actually appear and like follow you along on LinkedIn. Like Milani has prompt engineering team at Meta. Like obviously that's very important to her. So that is something that shows up and I can read it no matter where I am. So that's definitely something to keep in mind with your microbiome. And you can see Micah here has her tags, like knowing her personally, she does all of these things as like a consultant. So she could add, consultant in prompt engineering or something like that, but for her, I think those are her titles. So she has those first. And you can kind of just see, let me see a post that has a lot of comments. So this post here has like 40 comments, and you can go through on your own profile. So anytime you look to comment, see what is following you, and see how that looks to other people. So this is all kind of like looking at yourself through that lens, I guess. So for me personally, I'm gonna leave mine. Mine I know could be better and stronger, but like I said, I'm not currently looking for a job, and because some of the things that I do are much longer, it doesn't all fit. So the way that you can see what shows up is I can go here to my posts, and then I can see my title shows up right here, and you can see that it says founder. Sujin here is saying, she is a content designer, and she is interested in AI agents using Gen AI. So that is something that is very, key to her, and that is how she's going to show up.
I just changed it, and that's my son, who I always tell him I have meetings, and he's like, blur your background. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to blur it. Hide. Anyway, I just changed it. I used to have a word salad, and this is the quick thing, and I'm about to ask ChatGPT, but maybe someone in this room has the answer. Somebody told me that, and I'm looking for my next opportunity. Somebody told me, jam up, create that word salad in that headline, because that's how recruiters find you. But I wonder if when recruiters are dropping in keywords to find people, are they like whatever tool they're using, and maybe it's a LinkedIn tool, are they scanning all the language in your LinkedIn profile, or is it just in the headlines or just, the skills section? And so I got to find that out, because I think I noticed maybe more recruiters reaching out to me when I had this like giant block of, random words that I want to be known for. So I don't know. I should ask a recruiter this. That's another thing. But anyway, a thought so hilarious. You came across mine.
Yeah. And so I could see, and you're, front loading your title and where you worked. And I see people as well say like X Meta or like X Wells Fargo if they want to appear in that. As far as the like tools and searching,
Yeah. Question about that, Hillary.
Yeah.
Do you think that's good to include like X teacher or X Amazon or things like that? Or does it make you seem like you worked at a bunch of places but left it? I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like talking about your exes. Like, here are all my famous ex-boyfriends, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it classy to leave it up there? And is it important? Or is it, I don't know. I'm not sure. In terms
Yeah.
of
I
branding.
mean, there's pros and cons to everything, obviously. If you've only worked at a place for 3 months and then quit, like it's probably not the best move to advertise that. But for people who have worked at these, I think like big tech, that someone would be searching, because people aren't necessarily going to be searching like Wells Fargo conversation designer and come across you, but they may be searching like Amazon conversation designer. And this could be not just for jobs, it could also be for people who are trying to find speakers for a conference, or people who are trying to find contributors for an interview that they're doing, or something like that. They may be interested in those types of titles. But I do think that leaving it off isn't really going to like have a huge impact on you as much as what the titles are that you have. And so another thing to keep in mind too is like when I searched conversation designer, I didn't search conversation design. And so what I'm actually looking for, the people who do that versus the idea of that type of content. So that's something really to keep in mind, about, especially if you're saying like, Gen AI and AI agents. It's like someone isn't necessarily searching AI agent when they are looking for people to like fill a role. So just like keeping that in mind in terms of like what you're advertising, I guess. And then as far as like the insights of what recruiters are searching for and how they're searching, I would really recommend this website here, Careerflow AI. They have a lot of free tools and then also a lot of paid tools, but they specialize specifically in trying to get people hired at tech roles in Meta, Apple, Amazon types of companies. So they have a lot of insights for what recruiters are actually searching for. So I definitely would recommend checking that website out. And they are also who provided these chat GPT prompts for LinkedIn profiles. So I think there will be a lot of insights from there. So I definitely would recommend that. So back to my profile. Like I said, I'm going to leave my headline, but I also want to talk a bit about to this banner profile area. And this is something that I am going to edit mine. This is something like much similar to like a cover or letter that we've talked about before, this area is something that is like free to you to advertise yourself however you want. And so there's no reason to not do something like that. I created one just right before this that is a bit more simple than the one that I have, that just has like my name and my contact info. But and so I'm just going to update that because I'm trying to like simplify my profile a bit. You can do things in like my previous one I had, message me about these specific things. But having, your name, having these types of like your email and things like that. Let me see. Is something that you definitely can do, especially if you are looking for a job without having a job. It's kind of just like a way to advertise yourself. And this is something that on mobile is very helpful for people. And it's just kind of calling out information that a person doesn't have to go all the way down to read what my email address is or like what types of jobs I'm looking for. And so in our doc, I have templates that I've created for you to create these. A lot of these are also kind of geared towards like business owners. I created this for like a previous workshop that I did about LinkedIn that was more geared towards entrepreneurs. But they all can still work. So you can definitely have something that is just your name, what you want to be. So a conversation designer or aspiring conversation designer, open to work or available for hire or something like that. And then just encouraging people to connect with you. Or you could have just like, you're a conversation designer, this is your name, here's your portfolio. So these are just like very quick. You also could make your own if you're feeling that you want to do that. Canva is something that is very, very easy to use. And I just created a blank one here that will show, this is where your profile photo will show up. So if you want to create a blank one, these are templates that I've linked in the Google Doc. So I created just this like very simple one right before here. And where am I? Here am I. I also would recommend, and mine is not, so this is definitely me auditing myself, having a current profile picture that looks the way that you look so that when people are interviewing with you, they're not surprised. I have very different hair in my current life than my profile picture. So I would just recommend having something that is professional looking. You don't necessarily have to attend like a headshot workshop or like pay someone professionally to do it. Like iPhones have definitely come a very long way. And as we all know, AI editing has also come a very long way. So you could do things like edit out the background of something and just replace it with like a plain background. If you want to just take a photo on your phone, if you have an iPhone, especially, just setting it up on like a tripod or a stack of books and just taking a few photos, editing them with like free apps that are available on your phone, or even like using I know there's like a subreddit that's like edit this photo for me, and you could definitely do something like that. Or alternatively, a lot of meetup groups have times where they'll have photographers to take headshots. So that's something to keep in mind if you are looking for something like that. Definitely would recommend having a photo that is primarily just of like your face, because when it is very small, like these down here, it's very difficult to see if you're using like a very far away photo. So that's your micro profile here. There's a few new features that LinkedIn has, like adding a custom link to your profile. And that is something that you can do. I don't believe that you have to have a premium account in order to do that. But I do have a premium account. And so that was something that it allowed me to do. You can, when you edit your profile, it will say, because otherwise I believe that this is just not there at all. I would recommend having it be a link to your portfolio, or you could also create like an about page. So I have started creating this about page for myself, which is, I got this idea from Elaine, who has created a similar one for her portfolio. And so this is just kind of like a page that I've made that you could have all of your links and your resume. And then I personally just have like all these like speeches that I've done and things like that. So this is something that, as a person who is looking for new like coaching clients and speaking engagements, I would have something like this that is very applicable to my situation. But it's totally fine to just have this be linked to your portfolio. I have this as the link to my Facebook community because I want people to join that. So I might replace that with my about page, but for now, I'm just going to have it with that. So then you're open to work. This is, so I do have it set as recruiters only. So while we take steps to not show it to recruiters at your current company, they can't guarantee it. So that makes sense. This then does not have the open to work banner. I do see a lot of people doing that. I would recommend, if you are out of work currently and you are looking to get a job, having this turned on with the open to work banner on it. If you are looking for a job, anyone, if I'm employed or unemployed, I would also recommend have turning on LinkedIn Premium and paying to have LinkedIn Premium. Sujan, I believe you said that there's like a free month or something when you first sign up.
So if you are, I think, a premium member, you can give some friends, maybe up to 10 folks a year, like 2 months of free premium, to check it out. And so, yeah, that's what I last saw maybe a couple of weeks ago. Sometimes these, promotions change. But if you want to try free, I have a premium account too. You can reach out to me. Y'all have my LinkedIn. Yeah. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah, and I'm happy to offer that too. I wasn't aware that that's like something you
Yeah.
can do.
And one quick thing that I will say is helpful is that when you are looking at a job description, job posting, some companies you'll see like the actual hiring manager, their name will show up if you have premium, I believe. And also if you have premium, you can send a message, so it's to their mailbox on LinkedIn. You can send a message without being friends with them, so that's kind of nice. So not that, and people who are doing sales and want to do cold sales calls via messaging, that's helpful. But even if you're not in sales and you're trying to, land a job somewhere, apply as early as possible and also reach out to that hiring manager. Nowadays, I think a lot of hiring managers get so many messages. They write me back 2 months later after I apply, and they're like, "I'm so sorry. 1,000 people applied. Just want to reach back to you, let you know I got to you." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, 1,000 people. How do we, how do we stand out in that crowd?" And so a way is through this LinkedIn profile, because everybody's snooping on each other here. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's also, yeah, I think it's valuable to have premium to see that hiring manager, because additionally, you could discover that that hiring manager is connected to someone that you really are good friends with. And so then you could have it in that way. And it's definitely worth it while you're job searching, for sure. I just have it because I want it and I like LinkedIn. But there are a lot of, cool features that you can have by having that type of account. So I definitely recommend that. And yeah, I'm happy to also give people the 2 months if they are looking for that. I see a question, and yeah, I want to take a little break for questions about this section. But before I forget, I also want to highlight your public profile URL. This is another thing that I see people not do often. Like all the time, people do not have their public profile URL as their name. If you have your generic URL, I think it's like your name with like a bunch of letters after it. Do everything you can to have it be just your first and last name. If you have, a more common name, or if someone's already taken your name, I do think that you could add, and I see people add like, oh, this is interesting. People add like their name, and then they'll add like conversation designer or like CXD or something like that, or UX design or something like that. But absolutely have it be your name or as close to your name as possible. And another reason for this is because when people are Googling you, your LinkedIn profile will come up. So if you are, interviewing for a job or something, or if a person just happens to hear your name and look you up, they will find your LinkedIn profile. It is just a lot easier to identify yourself when you have it as your name. So I would say that's probably like the number one mistake that I see people make, is to not have their URL be custom. And it's so easy to do. So all you do is like go to your home page and then click this public profile URL. And then this is, I guess, a way to see all the information that is available on your public profile, aside from like how I was doing it of just viewing my profile. So then you can add all these things. And another thing that I would recommend, especially for people looking for jobs, is that you don't have your profile super locked down. Obviously, I know it is frustrating to get a lot of messages from salespeople, but at least having your like this portion visible. So that would be your background photo, headline, your website, your summary, which is this about section is your summary, and then your experience. So you don't need to have like all the details showing, but definitely at least having this about section and these things available and like public viewable to everyone is definitely something I would recommend. So yes, we have a question. And then if anyone has like other questions, let me see. So far, no other questions. But I do see a question in the chat of what do I think about avatars as profile photos? I would not recommend it. I know, like, I love an avatar as much as anyone else. I do think that that's something you could potentially add into your cover photo. If you want to, create a little scene of yourself with your avatar, your like memoji. That's something that I think is helpful. I just don't really prefer it because you're taking away that like layer of personalization that a person can like picture you, they can picture themselves talking to you. And so just for like personal branding sake, having that face of yourself be what is visible on your LinkedIn and your professional networking sites is helpful for sure. And having like the same profile picture across everything too. Laura, let me see. Is there a way to set notifications for when a job goes live? I heard the quicker the better. So there's not necessarily for like when a certain job goes live, but you can set alerts for jobs. So I have an alert turned on that is for conversation designer. And I do believe that you could make these searches be a lot more specific. So you could conversation design, and then I could have it be at like whichever companies you are wanting to apply for. So you could select like, you really want to work in banking or whatever. So then you would search for that, kind of narrow down everything. I wouldn't really worry about narrowing down experience level and salary, because I have noticed that employers leave that off a lot of times. And then you could include, your location and that kind of thing. There's obviously like, what's a fair chance employer? Okay, that's for if you have a criminal record. But yeah, these salaries and everything, like not all jobs are going to show up if you select these certain benefits, or if you select a certain salary, or if you select I only want executive level roles. So just for the sake of like not leaving stuff out, I would recommend doing that. And then you can set the alert. You can also get emails like as soon as a new job is posted. So that would be like every single day. So that's probably the best way to get that. Okay, and then this question can lead us into our next topic. So Clarice asked, how important is it to be active on LinkedIn, like posting your professional experiences? Tend to not be too active on social media, but it can be helpful to show that you're active in the space. So yeah, I definitely want to talk about content, and especially as someone who is a content creator, I create a lot of content on LinkedIn, but it's not something that everyone needs to do. You don't need to become a content creator in order to like get a job as a conversation designer. It's just not something that you have to do. It's certainly something that if you had a desire to do it, and you're not, I don't think you're necessarily having a desire to do it, you could do that, but there are ways, I think, to still be active on LinkedIn without creating original content. And I do think that for like your own self, especially, you're saying you're not really active on social media, but if you are looking for a job, perhaps like set, 30 minutes twice a week. I'm going to go on LinkedIn and like look for jobs, connect with new people, and engage with other people's content. And that could be your sort of like your work and your like homework that you're doing for finding a job. And that can be like in addition to your applications, as I'm sure that you would have dedicated time that you're doing to that. So the best way to get in front of people is by commenting on things. And so if you want to first connect with people who are conversation designers, who maybe work at places that you want to work, who would potentially then be connected to hiring managers at places you want to work, or just people who post a lot in general, definitely commenting on their post with things that obviously are like relevant, and giving that sort of like information, sharing your thoughts about what you think. Whenever you comment, that will show up in the like news feed of that person. So it will show up beyond just where you are commenting, which is the best part about it, because it really is a way to like not have to really put yourself out there in terms of like creating original posts, but it's somewhere that you can start connecting with other people. And it's also a good place to like find other people to connect with, is just by commenting on things. And if you don't really know where to start, or like you don't have a big network of conversation designers, even just searching the topic, and then searching conversation design and then going to posts, then you can see any post that, look, here's someone who is hiring a conversation designer. So not only are you going to see job opportunities, because a lot of times people who work on that team will be posting about jobs on their team, even if they're not the hiring manager. You can also just see like places that you can leave comments. You could leave a comment on Lorraine's thing, especially if you live, I think they did a meetup in London, so you could just say like, oh, I'm in London, like looking forward to meeting more conversation designers, or something like that. And then you could even look at their post and see, here's all of these people who live in the area that I live who have this job. So it's just a really great way to be active. And then as far as like you posting on your profile, this is kind of like the next thing I wanted to talk about. So, there are like a few posts that I would recommend making on your own profile, because there's a section right here of featured content. So these are both things, like a mix of things that you have posted, and also it could be like links to external sources. So for example, I had mentioned I created this about page. So I want to, and I do think this is actually on my link to about page and featured section. So I would just add, you can add any of these types of things. So a post is a new post. I would just skip newsletter and article. And then links and media. So you could add a link to your portfolio. You could add a screenshot of like an experience that you did. So for, this sake, I would add my link here. Oops, I have a lot of tabs open. So This is, I would just rename this like about me and my experience or something like that. And then I will go back through here and just describe everything that is on here. So I'm just gonna like add this really quick so you can see what it looks like. And then you can also reorder these. So I'm going to do that now because this is like ugly. So I don't really want it to be first. I'll probably be last. Um, and you can obviously also like update that. But my main point being these posts here are another place that you can like advertise yourself. And so one thing that I recommend people doing who are looking for roles like out in the public is to just post on LinkedIn and say like, this is who I am. This is what I do. And I'm currently looking for jobs in, conversation design. And here's maybe some background information about where you worked. Here's the types of skills that you have. And just like what you would say to if you met a person like in an elevator who was like, oh, like, are you looking for a job as a conversation designer? Like, tell me about yourself. And just creating that and pinning that to your featured with like a link to your portfolio. So you could just have a post that says, hey everyone, like I am excited to be looking for these types of roles. Here's like my qualifications. And then that can live on your profile. Obviously, it's great if a person sees that post and they see like, oh, I know someone who's hiring for that or I'm looking for that. And so it's a post that like it's not necessarily meant to be shared to get engagement for you like in the LinkedIn newsfeed, but it's something that can just like live on as like a bookmark that you've made for yourself. And then another idea that you could do for that, which I mentioned in our previous workshop, is creating a video. Whether you want to do a video walking through a case study that you've done, or you just want to create a video like about yourself. It may be like something that intimidates you a bit too much, especially if you're saying you're not really active on social media. You might not want to create a video, but maybe you do want to create one, or you just want to create like a Loom video or like a screen share where you're just talking over something and you're not even necessarily showing your face on screen, because I totally get that that's like overwhelming to everyone. But you could create a video, share that in your featured section, like share that on your LinkedIn. And that's a really good way to like introduce yourself to people. So I would definitely recommend at least trying to create like one post that's not just a link to like an external thing, and having that be something that is in your featured. So like, for example, I've created like a list of resources. And so I made a post like about that list and then I shared it there. And so mine are pretty much all posts. And then I have like my link that I just shared. So I do think that like having the post is great. I don't think that you need to become a content creator in order to get a job and in order to like be active on LinkedIn. I think that commenting can for sure go very far. If you have a desire, like for anyone else, if you have a desire to start creating content, you could even start too by sharing content that others have created and letting people know what you think about it. So like I read this article, in Substack or on TechCrunch or whatever, and here's what I think about it. And one thing I will say, and I kind of like hinted to this before, like I would not recommend just tagging every person that you know who is a conversation designer with a big following on LinkedIn, like in your post and be like, what do you think about this? Or just tagging them to like get more reach. Because like what happens when, say you read one of my articles and you wanted to share it on LinkedIn and you're like, I just read this post by Hillary Black and like she's awesome and all of that. That will show up to every person that I'm connected with. So it's kind of just a way for you to like get in front of me, but also get in front of every person who's connected with me. So it's very valuable to tag, like in this post, for example, I tagged these conversation designers that created these specific resources. I didn't just put them down here and just tag like, every person and every person who is a conversation designer to hope to get their attention and hope to appear in front of their network. As someone that happens to a lot, for one, I never read those posts, and occasionally I'll even like remove myself from the tag because I'm like, this is not valuable to my audience, and this is not like, this is just annoying to me. So just sharing like perspective of someone that does happen to, that I wouldn't recommend doing that.
Hillary, I have a quick question. If you can leave that screen where it is. When you mention tag, are you talking about hashtags, or are you talking about like Rebecca Evanho, where you do the
Yeah,
at and Rebecca? Both of those?
I'm talking about these types of tags, like
Got it,
naming
got it. So
someone.
that's not in good taste, really?
No, so what I mean is tagging people like without context. Like I wish someone could
Ah,
see an
oh,
example
okay.
of someone doing this, but like
Mhm.
for example, remember that photo I was showing with like all those people from London? They had tagged all the people who were in the photo, but if they just had been like just tagging those people and they weren't even in the photo and they just were like, "Hey, look at my post," kind of thing, that's like what I am hoping to avoid. I'm trying to see if anyone's doing
Ah,
it.
no, no, no. I understand. Like you're trying to get somebody's attention, look at my post kind of thing, even though
Yeah,
your photo is
exactly.
not in the group photo or something. Okay, I
Yeah,
hear
like
you.
just imagine, because what happens is like someone will write a giant post
Okay.
like this, and then at the bottom they'll like tag Hillary Black. And I'm like, this has nothing to do with me.
Oh,
I
that's
didn't
yeah,
write
that's really
this. Like,
rude. No, but I will
but
throw something
people
else
do
at
it
yeah.
to like get in front of them. And so I understand why people are doing it, but it's just like not a strategic way to
Oh,
put yourself out
no.
there,
No,
I don't
that's like being a pest, but I will throw something out there since you mentioned group photos. I kind of learned
think.
it the hard way where I threw a happy hour for Women in Voice DC chapter. And somebody I know, like I personally invited them because, they're a friend from education. And, she's posing for all these group photos of happy hour. And I put it online and she didn't like the way she looked. She said, "Oh, I look very anxious in that photo. Can you take it down?" And what was so annoying with LinkedIn is that like I have to take down the whole post. I can't just
Oh,
remove
yeah.
an image from the image gallery. So that really that was really annoying. Like don't pose in group photos or let the photographer know, "Hey, I'm in a witness protection program. Don't put my face up there." You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's also the other thing. So I'm really careful. I don't tag people unless they're my friend and they are very, out there and it's good to promote them. You know who they are.
Yeah. And Laura asked a really good question too, because like I don't want to discourage people from tagging people at all. Like I think it's great to tag people. And in your question of like, should you thank panel speakers for an event? I definitely think yes. Like it's thinking about like what is relevant. And so if you saw a panel and you had like Kathy Pearl on it, you should be like, and you really enjoyed it. I just saw a panel with Kathy Pearl. She said these types of things that it really resonated with me. And so just thinking of ways that you can kind of like add your perspectives and add value to a conversation, start a conversation is a great thing to do. So especially if that's like another good I would say like form of content is talking about events that you attended, talking about articles that you read, talking about videos that you saw. Those are all like good, genuine ways to start conversations with people that you might not otherwise speak with. Especially someone, yeah, like Kathy Pearl obviously is connected to like every single person in this industry. And so if that's someone that you read her book and you really liked it, definitely tagging her would likely get her attention enough to comment back, which is obviously like a great conversation to have as well. Yeah, I agree too. That's something to tell the UX team at LinkedIn about removing removing individual photos. Yeah, so that is, oh my gosh, and we're like almost out of time. That's the featured section. So all of those forms of content that I just shared about would show up here for you. And then experience. So the last sections being experience. These here are a bit like less important, I think. And then recommendations. So I just want to talk quickly about the experience section and another kind of like that I see is people not filling in the descriptions for their jobs. Because this is something that, like, unlike your resume, you're allowed to write as much or as little as you want. And so that's something that you can definitely talk about. Let me scroll to like one of my older ones. Like the types of results that you drove. So, I was a social media manager for an account that was this large, and I had these types of results. This is something that, like, might not necessarily be on my resume, but it's something that if a person is looking for a job, they want to know what type of experience and what type of value I have driven. So for like my job board, I have this also as something where I'm calling out, here's how large my network is, here's what I can do. This is me saying that, like, I don't do this, so I don't have a description here for my current full-time job. And this is something that I have added, like what skills I do, but I can definitely do a better job about actually writing down what my duties are, what types of results that I have driven. So this is kind of like just a summary of, like, if you were to write a case study about work that you did. There also is a way to add volunteer experience. So if you did something that was a way that you were kind of like getting conversation design experience without being paid because you were just like hoping to get experience, you can add that as volunteer experience on your profile. So I wanted to add an experience to me, and I kind of like outlined this as well. So I have an online course that I want to add to my experience. And this is a like, I guess I'll just say like freelance. And it is with this company. So you definitely want to like fill this out as much as possible. This was like a remote position. The way too you can do this, that if you have like a backlog of all things that you need to add, you can just keep this turned off, so that you aren't like notifying everyone that I'm like, hey, I'm about to add this experience that I started in March of 2020 to my profile. So then I could add, and you can also like update your headline here, but you don't have to. You could also add your skills. So I would just say like course, e-learning and things like that. And then you can also add the links to everything here as well. So I would definitely recommend doing that. So yeah, since I am this like course author, I developed this content for them. I'm just going to add that to my profile. And these are all like, obviously me doing this in like 1 minute. I'll go back through and add these and like expand on these a bit more as well. So like develop written and video content for UX content collectives. And then these are also things that I want to get the exact numbers from them. Like my course has been taken by hundreds of students. It's one of the top courses that they have. And then if I have any sort of like testimonials and things like that, I'm probably going to add that as well. So then you can see, you could make a post about it. Personally, I am not going to make a post about it because it's something that I did a long time ago. And then you can also rearrange your job. So like I will kind of like rearrange mine based on what is happening right now. So Clarice asking, experience section basically shows my same bullet points as I have in my resume. Would it be ideal to write more? I would. So if you have this sort of like job, especially if it's relevant to the types that you are looking for, think about if you were interviewing for a job and a person said like, hey, can you tell me more about what you did there? what would your answer be? So instead of having, you don't have to have something that's like this one that I have is like so long. This is probably a bit too long. But if I was just going to say like, these are the things that I'm responsible for, and like what is kind of outside of your resume that you would expand on in an interview, like that's kind of more how I see the experience section. And then if you have those numbers, having that in more of like a bulleted list, it's just like a bit more helpful to the person who is viewing it, because it's not just repeating what's on your resume, like especially if you've applied for a similar job. And I just think that resumes are you have to be so condensed in order to keep your resume to one page, that you probably aren't describing all of the things that you're responsible for and like how you worked with other people and just like details like that, where you would say like I worked on a team of 5 people and things like that, like might be better context to someone that they're not going to get from your resume. And I see yes. If people have to drop off, that is totally fine. We didn't make it all the way through. I do want to still like cover the recommendation section, and then talk a little bit about adding people. So first, I just want to talk about like adding people is something that you should do. And you should definitely network with other conversation designers. This is something that I personally do. And I add a lot of people that I don't know. And I just will like go in, search conversation design, and then look on people's profile, kind of see if they're active, and just sending them a connection request, but making sure to write a note of just saying like, hey, looking to expand my network of conversation designers, like would love to connect. Just something to show them that you're like not a robot, and also just a way to kind of like get a conversation started. So just, especially if it's someone like me, like if you were part of my Facebook group but you weren't connected to me on LinkedIn, like letting me know that, or letting a person know, like using Kathy Burrell as an example again, letting her know like, hey, I read your book and you really inspired me as a conversation designer. Just adding that sort of like context. Absolutely do not be afraid to add people who you never have interacted with, like in a professional setting. I think that people, especially in our industry, they really want to get to know other people, and even people who are not hiring managers, people who work on a team, people who have a job that you want, people who had a job that you want and now they left there. I think definitely just like putting yourself out there in that way, it's going to give you more opportunities to see more content. It's going to give you more opportunities to see potential jobs and things like that. So definitely add people. If you are coming from an industry that you like no longer want to work in, or if you like have changed industries multiple times, like for example, I used to like work in fashion before I worked in social media, and now I work in conversation design. And so I don't really want these like fashion people clogging up my LinkedIn. So I just deleted all of them. And I just like removed all of those connections. Obviously not people that I like care about and people who I want to be professionally connected to, but like protecting your network in the way of like not adding every single person who requests you if they are not relevant to what you're trying to like cultivate on your LinkedIn, especially like salespeople who don't really care about being connected with you. And then also just removing people that weren't like, or who are not relevant anymore, people who you just don't want to see, you don't really care to talk to, you don't know, all of that. Definitely remove all those people, because it will absolutely open up your LinkedIn, one, to be like your content to be seen by the people that you want to see it, and then also you seeing people's content that you want to see. So that's definitely something that I recommend doing. And then lastly, very quickly, I want to talk about recommendations. This is definitely an area where I had kind of outlined that I need to improve on my own, is getting recommendations. So you don't necessarily have to, like, it's a lot to ask someone for a recommendation, and I totally get it. This person who recommended me we work in the same like professional setting, but we are friends. And so he wrote me a nice recommendation, and that's the only one that I have. So I definitely want to get some that are more in line with my current industry. And I think that people you can think about asking for recommendations from are obviously like previous managers, previous coworkers that you have a good relationship with, even like current team members that you have a good relationship with, that maybe like you both have kind of confided in each other that like you want to eventually get another job. You could sort of trade off writing recommendations for each other. People who you maybe like are in a professional networking group with. So like if you're in Women in Voice, like Sujan, I'll use you as an example. You're in Women in Voice DC, other people are in Women in Voice DC. They know like how you conduct yourself, I guess. Like they can picture, like they know what your knowledge is and they know what it might be like to work with you. And they don't have to lie and say, like, oh, I worked with her, but they can even just describe you as the type of person that you are. And having that on there is, for one, like a very good thing to have on LinkedIn, but also it allows you to kind of pull from that if you get asked for recommendations in interviews or in like your job search process. Just having that kind of quote that you can take is something that is very helpful. And I think, yeah, even just like the person saying, oh, I worked with Sujin like on this conference that we both were planning together, and she is super organized and on top of it. Like those types of things, I think can go a long way, especially because this is not something that everyone has a lot of. So that's something that I would recommend having. So yeah, that is like the fastest overview of LinkedIn. I only got to edit a very small amount of my profile, but I hope that I answered a lot of your questions. And if you have more questions, I am happy to answer more of your questions. I will be sending out the recording of this, and I saw too that Anadita wanted feedback on their LinkedIn profile. So if you would like feedback on your LinkedIn profile, in 2 weeks, I'm going to be doing like a feedback session similar to this about LinkedIn, resume, portfolio, anything like that. So if you would like me to just do a quick overview of your LinkedIn, and I can even just say similar things of like, oh, this could be, you know, expanded on more, this isn't clear, you need to have more links, things like that. I'm happy to give you a small audit of your LinkedIn as well. I hope that this really like encourages you all to work on your LinkedIns. And if I'm assuming most of us are already connected to, if you want to just shoot me a message after you've worked on yours, or if you have any questions as you are kind of going through, like, what do you think about a description like this? Or like, what do you think of this headline? Something like that. Feel free to message me on LinkedIn, and I would love to help you out with that.